5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, want to echo the sentiments and appreciate the chair's indulgence and the committee for holding the hearing. You know, it's nice that we can look at something like this and probably a lot of other topics of oversight in which we'll find bipartisan agreement. It shouldn't be a breath of fresh air when it happens. Wish we did it a little more, but it's good that we're here today. You know, a lot of my colleagues have focused on cost, and one of my previous colleagues, Representative Crockett, talked about supply. And I want to talk about that because obviously I think it's directly related to cost. And so right now, Mr. Chairman, there's a significant shortage in some chemotherapy drugs. And as someone whose father passed away from cancer, I was the director of emergency management at the time during COVID, and my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And so I had to leave that job to go spend time with him. I got 18 months. I got 18 months to be with him based on his diagnosis and based on just the available treatment. And I know there's other people on this committee who have lost people to cancer, obviously our own ranking member being diagnosed with cancer, but you know, there is a shortage in chemotherapy drugs. And what's amazing to me is that after COVID, after we had significant supply chain issues, we spent $7 trillion+ during COVID in a bipartisan basis at the end of the Trump administration, beginning of the Biden administration, passing all pieces of legislation. And yet we have done little to fix supply chain issues in medicine. According right now to the FDA drug shortage database, chemotherapy drugs are in the top 5 of shortages. One of those drugs is a drug called cisplatin. The reason I know cisplatin is that literally was a drug that my dad was on. That was a drug that extended his life. And you know, I don't know that Americans know that 80% of the active ingredients in all drugs is made overseas. It's made in India and it's made in China. The idea that we are still relying on China for medication after COVID seems to just boggle the mind. Cisplatin and another drug called carboplatin, manufacturing delays at several pharmaceutical companies are largely to blame because there's quality control issues in these other countries. And a March report from the U.S. Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs, this is a direct quote from that report. Neither the federal government nor the industry has end-to-end visibility of the pharmaceutical supply chain. The lack of transparency limits the federal government's ability to proactively identify and address drug shortages. We don't even know when a drug shortage is going to happen, and as a result of which, we can't address it because it catches us off guard, because we have no visibility into the problem. If there's a plant and they make a certain drug and they go down because they're retooling the line and there was no planning to put enough of that drug on the shelf, we run out. We saw this in the formula instance where we lost a plant and we had a massive formula shortage. Now we're having it with chemotherapy drugs. I was literally contacted by a resident in my district when this issue started happening. She has breast cancer. She has treatable breast cancer. Her chemotherapy treatments were moved because they didn't have the drug. 3 weeks. She's waiting 3 weeks now for a treatment she was supposed to have last Monday, which she will now get on June 5th. I think it's long overdue that the FDA explain to us why we continue to have a problem with supply chain. Why have we not fixed the problems, or what are the problems so that Congress can figure out how to fix them? Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the indulgence. I yield back.